Coach Bricks, welcome back to the Soccer Queens podcast.
No, it's an honor and a blessing to be on here, man. I appreciate you asking me back on again. Always love the content that you put out, so it's a big honor for me.
I was so ready to have you back on. I know you are just as passionate about building our youth athletes as I am, maybe more. And it really shows in everything you're doing on social media. One thing that stands out with you is just the strength and the resiliency that you're building in these athletes. And one thing I get asked about a lot of the times from parents is, how do I get my kid to be more aggressive? How do I make them more tough out there on the field? And I want to really dive deep into this today because there's a lot of misconceptions around how to train young kids to be aggressive and to be confident and to take risks. So, what do you think about this? What have you done on this front? And yeah, let's get into it.
Awesome. Well, aggression is definitely something that I think a lot of coaches are dealing with nowadays, with kids not being aggressive and some being over aggressive. You're starting to see a group of people, young athletes that have been bottled up for 2 years, 3 years, and are finally getting out, and they have a lot of aggression inside of them. And then you have other ones that went very docile, during the whole lockdowns and stuff like that, and they continue to be docile. But I think it's on us as adults, coaches, and parents, and adults in general, that we got to be pushing them to do more in the sense of getting out and doing work, not just in their sport, but getting outside and doing chores, doing basic things that everybody should grow up with, and having responsibilities. And I don't care what age. I have an 8-year-old. She has responsibilities. She needs to do certain things. That's not being mean. I'm trying to teach her that, hey, you have responsibilities in your life. And she's extremely aggressive, because I try to instill in her, hey, you got to work hard. And through your hard work, you're going to get certain things in life. And sometimes you're not going to get anything. It just happens. You can work as hard as you can and never become, wealthy or anything like that. But it doesn't take away from who you are inside. And I think we try to, not us, but personally, but coaches try to get aggression out by running a person to death. You know what I mean? Oh, they're going to get so much more aggressive, or having them do stupid things in drills, where the aggression really comes from building the base at home with their parents, having their parents understand that, hey, listen, my kid has to have responsibilities. They come home, they do their homework. They come home, they have this to do, chore-wise, this to do. Getting them outside. My kids are outside all the time. I don't want them to be inside. And I want them playing in the snow. Listen, I live in the Northeast, so we get snow. I understand people in Florida like yourself, you guys don't see too much snow at all. But having them do those things, and then also getting out in the summer when it's hot out. My daughter played in a soccer tournament. I think you'd find this interesting. 2 weeks ago. And they had mandatory water breaks during the game. So in the half, you know how you sub in and out? No, they just stopped the game halfway through, 15 minutes things. I think they played 30 minutes half. And they had a mandatory water break. And I'm just baffled by it. I'm like, listen, I understand we all want to be safe. But if we build resilient kids like you talked about, if we build resilient kids who can handle these situations, then they should have no problem doing that. I didn't have a water break. They never gave us water breaks. It'd be 90 degrees outside. We played in that. And then when we have a thing up here in Pennsylvania where football players go a week earlier for two-a-days, which they call two-a-days up here. So they go a week earlier because they call it heat acclimation. These kids got to get now acclimated to their heat because they don't go outside all day long. So they're not used to being outside. So now you got to do a week of build up to get ready for the season, which blows my mind. Just absolutely blows my mind. We should have these kids prepared, ready to go. And that's not being mean. It's just telling them, go outside, get free play in, be free play as much as you possibly can, because that's going to build more aggression than me yelling at you, trying to build it in the weight room, build it on the field, whatever. Free play built more aggression in us than anything else, me and my brothers, because we had to go against each other. We had to figure things out. Were there disagreements that we had? Yes. Guess who couldn't solve them? There was no adult around to solve them. So guess who had to solve them? We had to solve them. So it was all these issues that come up in everyday activities that we had to figure out. And we did it. Were there aggressive times that we rolled around and fought each other? No question. But guess what? We got over and we learned how to control it. And I don't think we do a very good job as adults taking both spectrums. Kids that are very aggressive and learning how to harness that aggression, and then the other ones who have no aggression and trying to build that into them. So I agree. I think aggression is definitely missing in today's society. We have a few that are very too aggressive, and then other ones that have no idea what aggression is.
Yeah, aggression is a very interesting concept, and there's a lot of research around it that there's a healthy way to develop it. And I like that you mentioned it actually starts in the household. And psychologist Piaget, he did all of his studies on this, that kids who roughhouse with their fathers, especially, are kids who learn how to regulate their emotions better and who actually develop that healthier aggression. So it is important that these kids do roughhouse, which is also another word for like wrestling and grappling for those of you who haven't heard of it before. But it is important that that first and foremost starts at the home, preferably with the father.
I'm 100%. I've read that same, not the same exact article, but I've read that fathers need to be that. And I think we're having, and you know, my other part of my passion is helping create real man. And I think we're missing out. There's not enough men stepping up to take care of the responsibilities, or they're being forced out of the family for whatever reason. And I think kids are missing out. I think when people think, well, they only need a mom, I think they're definitely wrong. They need both. They need somebody out there, like you said, somebody to roughhouse, not hurt them, but roughhouse. I roughhouse with my daughters all the time when they were growing up. We go back to the trampoline in the backyard, and I would tackle them, show them things to do to get out of certain situations in case somebody ever tried to grab them, what to do. And I let them do it on me. But they learned how to use that aggression, and then they know how to use it when they need to and when they don't need to. And that's spot on. And I think you're right. It starts right there, and then I think it continues on with them getting out and playing in certain situations, having fun with their friends and being aggressive, not overly aggressive, but aggressive enough that they can free play and figure things out on their own.
You might find this interesting. I don't know if you've heard about it's the book. It's called Play by Dr. Stuart Brown. Have you heard of that book?
I have not.
Oh, it's I'll link it in the caption below, but it's super fascinating, and they do talk about that bad kind of aggression, that malevolence that is developed later in life because the child had a childhood that didn't have any play. So they never learn these situations, how to regulate their emotions, how to cooperate or problem solve. And one of the studies mentioned in this book talks about how they did research in the Texas prisons, and the people who were in prison for murder were the ones who universally had a childhood void of roughhousing and this healthy aggressive play, whether it was with their parent or with their peers. So I just found that super interesting. And I think parents tend to think, oh well, we don't want to, like, be rough with our kid. But like you said, it can be done in like a safe way and a fun way that obviously doesn't hurt the kid, but it really develops their emotional and their social intelligence. It was just super fascinating to read that book, and I highly recommend everyone checks that out.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely have to look into that one.
Are there any like roughhousing games that you do with your current athletes? Any like wrestling or like shielding games that really promote them to get comfortable with that physical contact and to really use their strength?
Yeah, so we'll do a couple different games where there'll be a ball game. So one person will be here, one person behind them, and then I'll throw the ball over. And the object is the person behind has to get to the ball. They have to be able to touch it, and they have a 5 second window. So I give them 5 seconds to get there. If they don't get in 5 seconds, then I might make them do push-ups, 5 push-ups, 3 push-ups, whatever. But the object is to get around that person. The other person can't grab him and pull him down, but they have to almost like box out. So it's a great box out drill that I used to do back when I played college basketball. It was a box out drill to hold off as long as you possibly could so the person can out. The kids love it. Once they get into it, they absolutely love that stuff because they're not trying to beat the crap out of each other. They're not trying to hurt each other. But they are being aggressive. They're leaning into them, and they're giving what sports is. And I try to talk to my daughters about this. Now they're young. One's 12 years old, but she was like, I told her, I said, you got to be able to lean into somebody and feel that aggression, feel that person on you, and they're going to give you elbows. It's just natural. They're going to try to get you off them. You got to stay with them, and you got to be able to give it back, not in a mean or cheap way, but you got to be able to do that, shield and stuff like that. So we do that game first. I also do a couple other games where we'll do different tag games, and then they'll get pretty aggressive with their tagging. I know people say, "Well, it's just tag." Trust me, my tag games get pretty crazy, get competitive, I should say. Well, they'll go at each other. You know what I mean? They got to get this person. They got to get this person. You know, they might run over somebody to get to somebody else. You know, so they'll do that. Never trying to hurt the other individual, but they're trying to get to a point of, hey, I need to get to that person. I want to win because that's what I'm also trying to bring out in competition. I want them to be better. I want them to exceed what they think they can possibly do. So we'll do different tag games in those situations with that kind of stuff. And then, like I said, the box out. We'll also do what I like, and is a crawl game. So we'll get down on all fours, and we have to crawl, and they have to get around people, under people, over people, and then we'll turn it into a freeze tag game. So it's another tag game where they're going in, they have to tag this person. Well, then you got to go all the way down, get somebody up, and they can't get up. They're constantly on their hands and knees, and then somebody else is trying to unfreeze the other person. I don't know if anybody plays it anymore, but we still play it from my childhood, freeze tag. So they'll do those kind of things where they have to get somewhat aggressive. There will be times that they are. And then one of the last games, and people, I think it's taken out of schools, unfortunately, is dodgeball. You get hit by a ball, let's be honest. There's a little aggression that gets into it, especially if you don't want to get hit in the face, but every once in a while, guess what? The person doesn't mean to hit you in the face, but hits you. You get a little upset. How do you control yourself? Do you want to go over there and knock the guy out like most people do? Or do you really want to contain that and understand how to get him back the right way? And I think that's where we have to learn how to train aggression. But we take these things away. Like you said earlier, well, don't do that. I don't want to be aggressive with them. Well, why are we taking away dodgeball? Well, they might get hurt. They might get hurt walking outside too. That doesn't mean we don't we don't let them outside. We have to learn how to allow certain things happen in certain situations and let the kids figure certain things out. Because that's the one problem that I see right now is kids don't know how to figure things out. The parent has to dictate everything, or the adult has to dictate everything. And we're not doing them justice because as they grow up, they're going to struggle. And they should struggle earlier on and learn those lessons early on where there's a safety part to it. As you get older, if you can't get out of it, you're 28, 29, 30 years old, and you're on your own, all of a sudden you fail, it's a big failure. You know what I mean? But when you're younger, we can usually pick them back up. So I think we need to do a better job of teaching aggression, okay, in a controlled manner, and then also how to harness that aggression. Because that's what I see a lot of what I call boys, and they're 30 and 40-year-old boys, do not know how to control aggression. They just flip. And I think that's why you see so much violence go on in the world. Guys that just go up and punch somebody for no reason. They have aggression inside of them. They don't know how to get it out. And I would love to see that study with the Texas prison system, because I think that's an interesting study. Were these kids ever roughhoused when they were younger? And I bet a lot of these people who are so aggressive don't have a father figure in their life and were probably never roughhoused the right way.
Yeah, I'm gonna link all the studies so that people can take a look. I mean, you go on Google Scholar and it's everywhere, and it's some of the best psychologists who have researched play and dedicated their lives to it. The benefit of play, especially in that rough manner, that competitive environment, and an environment where kids are really pushed to take some risks, it really builds that cognitive component, that cooperation, that problem solving. And I get more excited about the brain development sometimes than like, oh, how's this going to help with sport performance? Like, we love helping with sport performance and aggression and speed and agility, but it's about really leaning into that brain development, especially during those years in a child's growth, usually ages 8 to 12, when we want to build those neural pathways at their best. And I don't know what your thoughts on this are, but it seems in the strength and conditioning world, a lot of parents are so attracted to these very rehearsed drills and structured training sessions for 8 to 12-year-olds, very predictable, not a lot of problem solving, which is like the worst transfer to sport there is. Why do you think they're so attracted to this robotic form of training for this young age group? I'm trying to wrestle with it and figure it out.
I think that's $1 million question right now in the sports training industry. I think we've gotten so far away from what a kid should be that we are stifling these kids like never before, not just in the physical sense, because I see more injuries than I've ever seen in my life, but also in the mental sense, where you see more and more kids have anxiety, depression, all these kind of things that are leading up But I think a lot of it has to do because we are trying to control every situation. So parents, instead of just letting their kids out to run around, free play, figure it out for themselves, now, well, you got to go see this, or you got to be in 8 different teams all summer long. Like I have 2 kids that stopped training with me this summer. They trained with me during school. Remember, at school, and were playing a sport, and they were coming in, doing their stuff. They stopped training this summer because they said they're too busy. And so I got into it. I said, well, "What are you busy on? You going on a couple vacations, which is fine. If you're going away with the family, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Go away with the family as much as you can." No, Dave, they have this practice for junior high or high school. I think they were ninth grade for high school, 5 days a week. Then they also have their club ball practice. Then they also have, this other sport practice 2 days a week and something else. I'm like, dude, did you just listen to what you just said? Your kid has no free play, free mind using to go out there and do whatever they should do because you organized every single thing for every second of their day now in the summer is organized into a sport, an organized sport. We're destroying these kids at such a young age. And it's sickening to me because I can't take it. It's almost to the point where it's like, listen, if we don't wake up, you're going to see a generation, and you're starting to see it, that's going to be so broken physically and mentally. And we got to look back on it, and who did it? Us adults. We're trying to control every situation. And I understand everybody's scared to put their kids outside and let them free play for some reason. We're all of a sudden the world's the worst place ever. It was bad when I was growing up too. We just took more precautions and every kid was outside. But we need to get back to that. We need to get back to kids figuring things out on their own. And if we don't, like I said, we're going to have a very difficult time in the next 10 to 15, 20 years with this next generation moving up if we don't start changing some of the ways we think of things. But I agree with you. I see a huge group of people that say, oh, my 8 to 12-year-olds got to be training like whoever, name a pro because they're going to go Division 1. I'm like, okay, you and everybody else is going Division 1. You have to be realistic. Why are you in sports? And I always ask them this, why are you in sports? What to get a Division 1 scholarship? I said, that's the wrong reason. That should be one of the things that you get maybe towards the end when you're a junior or senior, you see it. What you should be saying, hey, I want to learn life skills. I want to be healthy. I want to learn, what it's like, what I need to eat when my body feels like this. What do I need to do to take care of it recovery wise? But also have fun. You know what I mean? Just have fun with my friends and all this kind of stuff. Just to, be out there because you're only young once. And when we organize everything, I think we just put them in a box and we just destroy them.
It also, like, devalues how smart kids really are. Like, kids are so smart, and we need to give them credit for it, and I understand parents think, like, what they need is, "Okay, we need to overcoach them on, like, sprint mechanics," but for the emotional maturity that an 8 to 12-year-old is at, that's very disengaging for them for you to instruct them all the time. And you'll find this funny. I posted a video of my older girls who are all upperclassmen in high school doing speed wickets, and it looked really cool online, and I got some messages from some of my 8 to 12-year-old parents, and they're like, "Why aren't our young ones doing that?" And then I had to explain, like, the different stages of development. But what's funny is we did do wickets with the young ones the other night, but it was gamified. And it was this game that I call the railroad track game, where I just set out these mini sticks and they just have to race and sprint over them as fast as possible. But I'm not going to call them wickets like my older girls do and like overcoach it. But I have never seen kids run faster. So they got a top end speed stimulus. But also, since the railroad tracks were set up, they were getting a good knee drive. They were striking with the ball of the foot. So they had good mechanics without that added instruction that they would have been bored with. So I just find it really funny, and that's why I want to educate parents that, like, different games and small-sided games are of huge benefit, and it's really about setting up that environment to get that physiological impact that we're trying to achieve.
No, that's great. I love that idea. I love it. I think that's key. I think the more games we can play with our young athletes, which I know you do a ton of, I think it's just beneficial. You know what I mean? It's just great. And they don't even know it's speed work. Like
Right.
they don't it doesn't comprehend with them speed work. They're just out having fun. We're getting what we want out of it, but it's a game situation, game like situation.
Yeah, and they're smiling and belly laughing, and I'm like, "Okay, well, this should be the goal for the age group. This should be, like, the KPI, you know? Like, how do we know they're improving? Well, are they smiling? Are they having fun?" And I think it is key to just remind parents of that. But let's dive into injuries because you brought it up, and we're gonna go there. But, what do you think is causing the overuse injuries? And even in women's soccer right now, there's been tons of ACL injuries in the Premier League, and a lot of people are blaming it on lack of resources and lack of technology. And I just think we're focusing on the wrong things here. But what do you think is going on?
Looking at it, I always the debate with me is always technology. I'm not a big technology guy. As anybody knows me, I don't. Hey, you don't have to put this watch on. You have to do this. Listen, if anybody uses it, fantastic. But here's what I say to people: I like, how much are you really doing it, and are you getting the proper recovery that you need? And I'm not saying you have to rest all the time, but are you getting the sleep that you need? These kids tell me they're on their phones or whatever tablets or whatever, till 12 o'clock at night, and then they're back up at 6 o'clock. Well, they're not recovering. They're not having the recovery process, and then they're on two or three different teams. So if they play on one team, they guest play on another team, and then they're on another. So they never have time to recover. Their nutrition stinks, the majority. I'm not saying everybody, but the nutrition stinks. They have no idea what to eat, when to eat, how to eat it. They're on the run, so they just pick up whatever's out there. And I think that's destroying their bodies. And then I think our movement's bad. I'm a big movement guy. I think our movement patterns are so broken that I've never seen a generation with movements that just don't match how a human being should move. So I'm a big guy that I've been watching. I do a lot of research on indigenous tribes out there to see how they move because they don't go to the doctor to get their knees redone or hips redone because they don't need to. And then I watch animals and I watch like cheetahs. How did cheetahs become so fast? Okay, well, they have four legs. Great. But they move a certain way. They move and they strike the ground straight. They don't move with their foot turned out. And why do I know? Because there's this dog that I have to go over and work with. Not a dog, but I work with a gentleman and he has a dog. His dog limps around. His foot is completely turned out like this. Something happened to it, something crushed it or whatever. He can get around, but that's how he moves. But his foot is turned out. The other foot's fine. So he has no issue with this other foot. So I watch it and I'm like, all right, it gets around, but it's very limber. And I see a lot of kids, that's how they walk. They walk like this. They walk with their feet turned out. And I'm like, how do you expect to run efficiently if your feet are turned out? Your body was designed like this by God to move this way. So we want to strike the ground like this, but then we train people the exact opposite way. So I think we've done a bad job of how we're training people. And people look at it like, well, look at this. Okay, but that's not right. Just because you can do 700 pounds and your feet are turned out on a squat, you're training a movement pattern incorrectly. We need to get them back to where the human body was meant to move the correct way. And now everybody will say, well, everybody's different. I agree with you. Everybody is made different, and thank God they are. But they still have to move a certain way properly. It's just like the blood. I have to get the blood from my heart. It goes into the arteries. Okay, it doesn't go to the veins. It goes to the arteries, pumps itself through, and all that kind of stuff. So, and once going back to the veins and all that, going back into the heart. So it has to move a certain way, and that's how the human body is. So I think our movement patterns are definitely broken in today, and I think our nutrition's off, our sleep patterns are off. So I think you're seeing an increase. And then, like you mentioned right at the beginning, the overuse. We're constantly pounding the same thing over and over and over. Parents would be better off putting their kids in one team, letting them go out and free play the rest of the time. And I know I used to be a guy, hey, you have to play multiple sports. I'm not all for multiple sports anymore because so many kids pound 4 or 5 sports on at one time. So that's not good either. Oh, well, Dave, I play multiple sports, but I have 3 going on right now. There's no time to recover. So that's not good. I'm a person that you need time to recover. And I wish we go back to the old model. I really mean this. Soccer, you played in the fall. And as a travel team, once you get older, you play travel soccer, you're done in November. Then you're done. You don't play. If you want to play basketball, wrestling, whatever else there is, go play it. Then you go on to the next one. Then it could be, track or baseball, softball, whatever, field hockey, whatever it is, lacrosse. And then you go back to the regular season. We don't have that anymore. Every travel team is year round anymore. And I think that's a huge problem. And they see it as a money grab, in my honest opinion. And a lot of these organizations, it's a money grab to keep these kids occupied. And parents buy into it. And it's hard for a kid to succeed if they're not in one of these leagues and stuff like that. So I think we need to start thinking a little differently how we do youth sports. But getting back to the old model, I think was extremely good in keeping injuries down and getting more free play. I'm gonna harp on free play all the time because I just don't think we do that enough.
I agree with you that it's that lack of play that is causing kids to just not move well and not be well-rounded athletes, and they lack like balance and coordination and just overall body awareness, and then they lack certain strength in certain muscle groups, especially like for our soccer, field hockey, our basketball players, like a lot of like upper body and core weaknesses. And that absolutely contributes to a lot of these injuries we are seeing. And I think a lot of people are just trying to focus on, okay, well, what can we do now? Should we get more technology? Should we hire a better performance staff? And it's like, no, we should look at everything that didn't happen in childhood.
Mhm.
And I found a really funny conversation on Twitter about this, and someone did ask a bunch of strength coaches opinions on the ACL epidemic in the women's game right now. And, everyone was like, oh, it's, bad, like deceleration mechanics, like mechanics, resources, lack of money, and like all these things. And then Jeremy Frisch, he's like the greatest of all time in youth development. He comments, it's everything the child didn't do when they were a child.
He's
And
right.
I was like, that's it.
He's right. There was a guy who came in, and I spoke with him very briefly. I got to get into more contact. He's saying he's seen a problem with ACLs because children nowadays are put on their backs when they go to sleep because of the SIDS, sudden death infant syndrome. And he said when they fell asleep on their stomachs, they had to do something very, very important. That was pick their head up. They had to. And the development of the head strength and all that kind of stuff gave awareness to the rest of the body of where it was in space at all times. So when an athlete would go to step to the ground, okay, and the leg is in the air, it knew, hey, I have another 2 feet to step. So I hit the ground. Well, a lot of times now we're not understanding all this kind of stuff. So we think, oh, I have 3 feet to hit the ground. And all of a sudden I go to hit the ground and it comes later than what I think. And the cycle process is off, boom, and then something happens to us. And it's very interesting because, like I said, I don't know if I have to get into it a little bit more, but when he was explaining it to me, I'm like, it goes back to what you just said. What aren't we doing as young people, kids, babies, and stuff like that, that we took away because we thought it was safer, but how we ruined certain things in the process. And I think that's what we have to start looking at, going back. And Jeremy's 100% spot on. He's awesome. Love watching his stuff. Love reading his content. Just get out there and move around. He does. I watch his video. He does all those crazy things. Kids just jump over stuff. Something probably you and I did outside. We didn't go anywhere. We just did it because it was fun. My kids do it. They'll jump over the tires I have out here, run around. I don't tell them to do anything. They just do it because they just want to have fun. And I think that's what they're missing.
And I don't think it's the kids' fault either. I think a lot of people will be like, "Oh, well, kids nowadays are lazy and they don't play as much." But they don't know. They need us adults to guide them, parents, coaches, performance coaches, to really just set up that environment where they can thrive. I think everyone blames everything on the kid. Oh, well, they're out of shape because it's their fault, or they're malnourished because it's their fault. And I'm like, wait a minute, who's buying the groceries? It's not like your 8-year-old has the credit card. Like, you're the one buying the groceries. If it were up to me, my kid would only eat steak, eggs, bacon, and like high quality animal proteins. Like, I just think it's so funny. And I think adults really need to take responsibility. That's why you do your research, you make connections with other professionals in the industry, and we have these conversations. We want to better the environment for youth. We want to make sure the next generation stays healthy, vibrant, they become great athletes. And it really is adult inspired.
I agree. Listen, I'll be the first one to call a kid out and call him soft. No question in my mind. But
But
I'll
people would say that's offensive, which is
yeah,
also crazy.
oh yeah, and people have said that for me for a while. And I've been calling people soft for the last 20 years. So I have not just started. I've been doing it for a long time. So, but what I always tell them, I say, this is the reason why you're soft. I said, you're not learning from what I told you. I told you this is X, Y, and Z. This is what you need to do. Understandable. Then you need to have a conversation with your parents. Okay. Now this is older kids. This is an 8-year-old because I try not to, most of my 8-year-olds and stuff, we just do fun things. But when they start getting to high school, I'm like, this is a reason. You need to have conversations with your parents. Now, granted, it might not be easy. Have them come and talk to me then. You need to feed them something quality, like you said. I love that diet too. Um, Eating the eggs and steaks and all that stuff. I love it. Um,
It's a pretty simple diet.
it's about as simple as you can get,
It's
and it's so
amazing. If
nutritious.
you're
Yeah,
telling me that's all I'm eating, then I'm all in.
yes, exactly. So it's not hard, but we're making it hard because we're trying to overindulge everything out there. But us parents, I'll be the first one to say it, us adults and us parents have made them soft. We've taken away the challenges that should be in place for them to excel and fail and learn from their failures to make them better because we don't want anybody to fail anymore. And that's a problem in our society. I love failure. And I tell people this all the time. I do things to fail. And they're like, what? I said, yes, so I can learn what got me to that failure, what worked, and then I can go fix it to go to the next thing. And then I'll find something else. Like I just built a shed for my chickens. Okay. I have chickens here. I love chickens. I have about 40 chickens. Well, my wife decided to get 26 more. I had to build something bigger. I have no idea how to build anything. I was never taught, but I learned. I started researching it. I can't tell you how many times I failed putting the thing together. I failed, but I learned each time. Okay, the next time I got to do the other side, I can't do that dumb thing I just did. Boom, and I kept learning and learning and learning. And guess what? I built it, and now it's stable, sturdy, and I'm like, okay. But it was from all the failures that I looked at on the one side. Okay, I messed up here, messed up here. Okay, I need to fix it, and then it worked out. And I think that's what people take away because we try to spoon feed it to them because we don't want them to go through hard times. So we spoon feed it to them. The best is going through hard times. Figure it out. Let the kid figure it out. Yes, you don't want them to get hurt. And I'm not out there saying, hey, put this shed together and it falls on top of them. I don't want that. But I want them to understand, hey, my daughter helped. My 12-year-old daughter was out there most of the days figuring things out with me. I'd say, what should we do here? And I would ask her and I'd sit there and wait for it. Now, granted, sometimes she would have no idea. So I always couldn't sit there all day. But a lot of times she said, Dad, why don't we use this? Perfect. I was waiting for the answer. And sometimes she'd tell me wrong and I'd tell her why. But she learned those things and kept growing. Here, Dad. And then she started handing me the things before I needed them. I didn't even ask because she knew what was coming next because she watched. We need to do more of those things. Have the kids with you. I loved it. I had somebody next to me, even though, I had to do most of the work. She was there just being with me. You know what I mean? And as my daughter, it was awesome. It was one of the great times of my life because I got to be able to have that experience with her. And people always say, well, I don't have enough time with my kids. Create the times. Create times with the kids so they learn. So let them fail. Let every individual should fail a lot and then learn from those failures. And I think we'd be much better off. We'd be much, much better off.
This comes back to what we've been discussing about play and what better way to learn from failure and figure out a solution and teach a kid to problem solve than put them in that play environment. You're not going to get any benefit on that front if you have a performance coach who is putting them through these rehearsed drills and calling them agility drills when it's the furthest thing from agility, because agility is reacting to something quickly and making a decision. It's not rehearsed. That doesn't happen in sports. So that play is so critical. And beyond just the sports, it's just so good for just teaching kids, hey, life isn't fair sometimes. You're going to compete against people where you're going to lose against, and you need to figure out how to level up. Life is hard. It's not something that you should be bubble wrapped from. It's like, do you want your kids to be safe or do you want them to be strong? Do you want them to be prepared? Because life is only going to get harder, and you could be going through a divorce or getting fired from your job, or you have a tragic death in your family, and you have to figure out how to bear that and keep going through life with courage and just focusing on the good things and getting better. And I think we're really robbing our kids of that like greater life lesson that is so valuable from play and getting into riskier environments.
Yeah, play's huge. Play's just huge. And I know people's fear because when I talk to some parents, they're like, well, Dave, the world's tough. And I said this earlier on. And I said, I understand that the world can be scary. Then this is what you need to do because it's only going to benefit you too. Get a group of the kids together, take them to a park. You be there. Don't get involved. Just be there, right? You go do something, whatever, or just watch from a distance. Let them figure the things out. But be there. If you're that scared, okay, not to let them go out on their own, which is fine, then just be there. But you do something too active. You know what I mean? Or when we come up with games in my house, I let the girls come up with the games. They'll come up with some games I don't even know what the heck they are, but we'll play them. And as long as they don't change the rules during, so it fits their agenda, you know what I mean? So they win. If they give me the rules up front, we'll play the games all the time. And I won't say a word. I'll be like, nope, that's how it is. I mean, I let them decide because I can come up with games all day long. That's not helping them. I want them to develop that. I want them to create the creativity. And that's what we always did growing up as kids. I was very fortunate. I grew up with three brothers, and then we had a ton of kids in the neighborhood. We all met every single day in the summer at 8 o'clock in the morning. We'd go to about 1. We'd come back out at 1:30. We'd go to 5, and then we'd come back out at 5:30, and we'd go to like 9 o'clock. This is every day. And we always came up with different games. Always. Some were organized in the sense of, okay, we played baseball, kickball, whatever. Other ones, we just made things up on our go. And I think that's what kids need again. Kids need to get back to that. Parents need to help that. Get back to what you guys did. Because I know most 40 and 50-year-olds did that when they grew up. So let them get back to that part. They don't need to be bogged down with all these camps and clinics. And hey, I have to go to this trainer day today, and I got to go to this trainer. And how many trainers do you need? Your kid's 11 years old. And people laugh, and I'm like, but this is going on. This is what I see all the time. So I agree. Play is so key. Play is such an important role, not only in the physical development, but like you said earlier, the mental development. And it helps with so much stress relief that it's just incredible. Just getting outside. And just being outside, technically, is one of the greatest things you can do. Because these kids have been bottled up inside for way too long. School's too long, in my opinion. And then you saw the last 3 years what went on. So they need to get outside more and enjoy what we have out there.
Again, everyone, I'm going to link all the studies that support play for children's physical and mental development. I'll also include some articles on the mental health side of things. Super fascinating as well. And not only kids need it, but even when they grow up and become college athletes or adults like Coach Bricks and myself, you still need play in your life to just really make sure you have a good mood and you can keep your brain nice and sharp. So I'll include those in the caption below. Coach, do you have any other words of wisdom for young athletes?
Yeah. Listen, go out there, your young ones. Go out there and have as much fun as you possibly can. Okay? Work hard, develop a work ethic that's second to none. Because in all honesty, if you work hard now and say it's in your sport, it's going to carry over to your life. Okay? So later on in life, you're going to go for a job and you're in an internship. It's between you and somebody else. Who are we going to hand that job to? It's going to be $250,000 job. Well, that's a lot of money. We're going to hand it to the person who works hard. Maybe they don't know the most, but they're the one who works the hardest. I can develop somebody and teach them what they need to know if they're willing to work hard. And I'm telling you, that stuff all continues to thrive. If you get a Division I scholarship, Division II scholarship, that's a bonus. That's a bonus to what sports should be about. Sports should be about character building, team building, all these things that teach us things as we grow older. We've changed that. We told the youth that you need to win at all costs. I'm not against winning. I think winning is very, very important. But we need to develop the character building of a human being. I see so many rotten people that are growing, coming out now, and these kids that just go and I post about it, about these group of kids that are going and hitting these adults, for no reason. It's a gang initiation. They're lost people. They're somewhat lost. Somewhere along the line, something failed. Something failed them. And that's why they turned out the way they do. So we need to get that back. Let them be kids again. Let them get outside. Have fun at this age, young people. Enjoy it. Don't overdo it. Don't get so involved with every single sport that you miss out on what childhood should be about. Childhood should be about out running around, coming up with your own ideas, catching fireflies in the summer, going out and building snowmans and sledding in the winter, shoveling, doing things like that, becoming creative. My kids just today, for some reason, I don't know, my wife, was teaching classes. I was working at a charity event, and they decided to do a lemonade stand. Who knows? And they made these bracelets. And they stole the bracelets. And I'm like, okay. But they just came up with it on their own. I didn't say anything to them. I had no idea. I come back and they're like, oh, Dad, we just did this. And I'm like, okay. You know what I mean? But I wanted them, it's great because they just come up with these things. And that's how we all should be. We should all have a kid's mind, in the sense of our creativity well into our hundreds. You know what I mean? We should still have that creative mind. We lose it somewhere along the line. And I'm seeing it more and more, and it's getting more and more disheartening when so many young kids lose passion for the sport, which they used to love, because they're pushed into it too much, too early. And, you don't see the exuberance that they could get out of it. And then all the injuries. I mean, I'm seeing more and more kids that are hurting themselves at such a young age, especially ankle injuries. And I truly mean this. If you don't fix your ankle, okay, and I mean really truly fix it, once you sprain it, you open yourself up to more injuries. And not always in the ankle, it could be in the knee, could be in the hip. That ankle is so important. So once you hurt it, make sure you get it rehabbed, fixed, strengthened, and you continue to strengthen it the rest of your life as long as you're going to play sports or move. So you do not have these issues. Because I can't tell you how many kids I've seen over the last probably 2 years that call me up. Hey, Dave, can you help rehab me back from an ACL tear? When I speak to them, they're like, yeah, I had an ankle injury 4 months before I tore my ACL on the same knee. And it's happening more and more. So that's one of my big, big pet peeves with people when they hurt themselves. Fix it right away, but make sure you make it strong enough. I didn't say get back right away, but fix it right away. Start working on it because it's just leading to more and more problems. But get outside and play more, and we probably could cut down a lot of these injuries.
I love it. This was such a great discussion. And let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Are your kids taking the summer off from their sport, or are they enrolled year round? What are you doing to actually get them strong and to build them up as athletes? We would love to hear from you. So please comment below. Check out those research studies. Let us know what you thought about them. And also, most importantly, be sure to follow Coach Bricks. I've included all of his links and website as well in the caption. And Coach, I want you to just real quickly plug your Real Man program. You know, I try to do my best to take care of the female side of things and build empowered young women, but you're doing something very similar on the male front, which I love. And we absolutely need more strong and courageous men in the world. So go ahead and plug it.
No, I appreciate that. And Erica, let me put this out before I give that. You do a phenomenal job with those youth females. You know what I mean? You're always trying to empower them, help them understand stuff. So I think that's phenomenal. I think they need to they need role models. You know, young females need role models. And I know I've had my daughter listen to your podcast, some of your podcasts, especially when you did one of the other ones, the Girls to Queens, all that kind of stuff. And then also this one. So she really enjoys them. But with the men, I see men devolving in the sense of we're not taking our job seriously as men. We're not doing the things that we need to do to become real men. You know, I go as basic as holding the door for their significant other. You know what I mean? Whether it's their girlfriend, their fiance, their wife, their mom, whatever, holding it for the elderly. You know what I mean? Getting out there. My wife does not shovel. And everybody says, well, she should. No, she shouldn't. That's my job. I get out and shovel. I shovel the whole driveway. I don't ask her. She sometimes cleans her car up, and that's about it. That's my job. Okay, there's certain things I still hold true, and you can say, well, you're old school. I'm cool with that, 100%. I have nothing wrong with that. But we need to get back to having men do the things that they need to do. Be strong, be leaders in the family. And I'm not saying controlling, there's a difference. I'm saying lead, okay? Make sure that we're doing the right things, showing I have daughters, showing my daughters what a man should do. So when they grow up, hey, this is the kind of person that I want taking care of me, not some, person who's not very nice, who doesn't take care of me, who abuses me. I know not to go with somebody like that. I know the difference. And that's what men of today need to do. So I have the Real Man series that I do. And based off that, I call a program called the Earth Strong program. And that's where I try to help people build up their spiritual, mental, and physical aspects. My goal is to get people to live to 120. Now, people laugh at me when I say that because here in the United States, it's 77, and that's it. I truly believe the human body was meant to live to around 120. Healthy, not chronically diseased or all banged up, healthy 120. And I'm on that mission, and I continue to study, just like Erica was talking about play here and all that kind of stuff that she studied up on and mental health. I'm constantly studying up on how can we get to that point. And I found a couple tribes out there that their average death or age of life is 120. So I know it's possible. I'm going to continue to try to dive into that and get people in the group that are in my Earth Strong group now to understand that. So I appreciate you allowing me to be on. I've always had a great time talking to you. You know what I mean? I know you were a Baltimore girl one time and stuff like that. John Hopkins, which I still have a hard time with. You beat my Messiah Falcons in the championship at soccer, girls soccer, so it's hard for me. But I do appreciate it. You know what I mean? You having me on. Keep doing what you're doing because, like I said, it's very, very powerful in how you help these young females out. Not just the females, but all young athletes. And you have the right mindset. Something that I think more and more strength coaches need to have that mindset if we're going to do the right thing in the future with these young athletes.
I appreciate that, and likewise, I love the programs that you have created, and I'm really fascinated by the living to 120. I do believe that as well. I think the human body is so incredibly capable if you give it the right stimulus, the right nourishment, and you don't have to get old and decrepit. You can really thrive in your later years. So that's just such a great message. And since we have some time, I do want to touch on the Real Man program. So I'm going to put my Girls to Queens hat on right now and kind of talk to the girls about this. But you said something interesting that you shovel and your wife doesn't. And I want to be very clear to the ladies listening that it doesn't mean you can't shovel. It doesn't mean you don't have the muscles to do household work and construction. But personally, like, I don't want to do that stuff because I don't like it and it stresses me out. And I'd rather, do more like creative work. And I believe there are specific roles for the female and the male, and that's totally okay where we are different. And look, if you like shoveling, great, but you don't have to. And if you find a man that leads and does those activities and those chores for you, that's amazing. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm totally not afraid to admit that I don't do any construction in the house and I do all the cooking and cleaning, and it actually relaxes me. I would be very, very overwhelmed if I had to do it all, and us women don't have to do it all, and it's not good for our hormones, it's not good for our stress. So I want to just reinforce that to the ladies listening. It doesn't mean you're not strong, it just means you're different and you don't have to do it.
I 100% agree.
I had
My
to
wife,
chime in.
yes, no, I agree. Because if my kids had to eat and I was around, they'd probably starve. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm just not a good cook. My wife's phenomenal. She can throw things together. She's phenomenal. She knows that. But I do the shoveling because she doesn't like doing it. I know she can physically do it because I have my daughters come out. My youngest, my 12 and my 8-year-old, they come out and shovel with me. So I know they can do it. But she doesn't, because she just doesn't like it. I said, I got this. I'm the outside guy. I'll take care of this. I have no issues with that. I like building those things. Like you said, it relaxes me. I have fun
Yeah.
shoveling. I know people say that's crazy. I like it. I'm outside. Once again, I love being outside in the environment. So shoveling actually is a relaxation, like cutting the grass. I have no problem cutting the grass. I like cutting the grass. You know what I mean? I don't care if it's 110 degrees out. I like cutting the grass. It's relaxing. Building that shed, even though I wasn't great at it, it made me learn a lot of stuff. Guess what? It was fun. I got a lot of things out of it, and I was outside. So you're right. I know my wife could help me do all those things, but she just doesn't like it. And there's certain things that she does extremely well that I can't do very well, and I don't like doing it. I don't like cooking. I just don't. You know what I mean? But she does it extremely well, so I let her do it, and she's phenomenal at it. She's, definitely knows how to do that, and she's phenomenal at many different things. So she knows what she can do extremely well. I know what I can do. I can cook, but like I said, it would probably be burnt and everything else, so it wouldn't taste good. But those things, I think it's a compromise. And that's what a man has to understand and a woman has to understand. Where are you strong at? Where are you not strong? Okay, well, let them do it then. If they really like doing it. She knows that. Let them do it. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to knock a woman. She can do it. If she wanted to come out and help me, I'd be more than happy to let her come out. But she doesn't. So I'm cool with it. I'm fine with it. I have no issues. I like doing it.
I love that. And just because us women cook, it does not mean we are oppressed or being controlled. I love cooking and it's amazing. So I just want to clear the air on that. But
What do you do?
I miss having these conversations because obviously, I used to do the Girls to Queens podcast, but starting to incorporate a little bit of it into this to really help our young girls like realize, look, you don't have to do it all and overwhelm yourself. And that is a part of just life performance too. You have to learn to work as a team with whoever you're with. And I think that's important. You can't be alone in this world. Humans thrive off of great relationships and community and really clear roles. And
Yeah.
I think we might have to have you on to discuss this in detail again.
I think you brought up a good point. You said impressive. Look how successful you are. You're an entrepreneur and you're a female. My wife's an entrepreneur. She's a female. She's extremely successful, probably more successful than I am when it comes to business. She's much more organized. She's more passionate about certain things. I give more props to people like that every single day. I don't care if you're male or female. That's props. Just because she wants to cook or she's a better cook than me, that has nothing to do with oppression whatsoever. It just has to do with, hey, listen, That's what she likes to do. And I think we've in society have, coined that term to say, oh, well, we're degrading women. No, we're not degrading women. If they like doing it, why? If a woman doesn't want to go to work and a man's willing to work two jobs, what's the problem? I don't understand why we have to look down on women in that. That's the most idiotic thing that we've ever tried to change in culture is trying to look down on women because they might want to stay at home with the kids because they like it and stay home clean and cooking that. And that's all of a sudden a bad thing. I don't get it. If they really like doing it, what's wrong with that? I don't know. But like you said, we could go on for hours. But
Oh, we could. I couldn't agree more with the staying at home thing. Like, I'm in my home studio right now. I'm gonna walk out in my garage gym and do sessions all day barefoot, and it's like, I don't have to do, like, an hour-long commute to, like, a club where the manager doesn't even let me have any autonomy, so it's like, I feel more liberated than ever before, and, yeah, we can get into it, but, yeah, this was a funny way to end this episode.
that's, but hey, it's a good one. It needs to be said. So, like I
But I
said,
hope it inspires the young girls out there to, like, really lean into, what makes you fulfilled, what your own purpose with, where you feel like at your best and you're least stressed, and just go with that and work towards it. So I think that that can be a valuable message for the girls.
yes, I agree. I agree. But like I said, it was an awesome podcast once again. Another great time I had on here.
Thanks, coach. And guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you stayed till now, till the end, we hope you enjoyed the ending. So let us know your thoughts, and I will see everyone on next week's episode.